Okay. I'm going to detach myself. You may hear a little microphone distortion there. So we are going to come to a settled space, wherever that may be for you. And maybe settling is this idea of where you can remain most muscularly soft. So that's going to be different for all of us. And if it's helpful, you might take a few deep inhales, those longer exhales, maybe those exhales settling into the weight of the body where you're connected to the floor. And once those breaths feel complete, just inviting yourself to breathe as the body chooses, no effort to breath. And then pausing here just to notice what's present for you, what might be present in that physical body. Maybe we have things that are present in thinking mind or feeling body. We're noting with curiosity if we can, and moving on to the next sensation that might be present. So we're going to spend just about a minute here noticing what's present for you. This noticing of sensation is a skill we build over time. Sometimes there's not a lot that's present in our awareness. That's okay. We're not really trying to create anything or make anything happen. Just being with what is also a skill in and of itself. So bringing awareness to your breath and noticing the path of the breath. So this morning, as you're inhaling and exhaling, what is the path that the breath is traveling? Sometimes it presents as expansion. It could present as temperature, or even, sense of friction in the nose and throat. Taking about 4 breaths here to notice the path of the inhale and the exhale as it leaves the body. And noticing as you're inhaling and exhaling where you first sense the temperature of the breath. And noticing the change in temperature with the inhale and the exhale. Witnessing any sound that might be present with your breath. Sometimes that sound is only audible to you right inside that head, or maybe you notice if it's audible to the room that you're resting in. And finally, witnessing the rhythm of your breath. Noticing the number of beats it takes you to breathe in and the number of beats it takes you to breathe out. This witnessing of the qualities of breath, the path, the sound, the temperature, the rhythm are all ways that we begin to quiet the chatter of the mind, to become more embodied, and also train ourselves to try to be the witness, taking that one extra step back from the experience. When you're ready, just take that nice deep inhale, breathing in as deep as you can. Maybe exhaling, letting it move out through the mouth. We'll start to wiggle just a little bit. Maybe stretching if that feels good. When you're ready, and there's no hurry to get there, we're all going to meet in a seated position, a brief seated position. If you've got those blocks and blankets, bring them with you. And if you don't, we'll have some options. So we're going to start with deer pose today, a twist to open up the front of the thighs. And I'm going to actually toss out a couple of ideas. I just kind of decided. So let me get you in deer if you like, but you could also do dragon. So if you're a dragon fan, we're going to open the front of those thighs. So if you're making your own bolster, we're taking the ends of those blocks. We're going to put them inside our blanket like they're a hot dog, and our blanket is a hot dog bun. It's going to rest on the right side. So your prop will be on the right side. We'll lean back on hands and we drop knees over to the right side. And we slide our left leg back. We'll twist to the right, and then we start to just match that homemade bolster with our torso. So however it's going to land is however it's going to land. We come down to the belly, resting the heart. You might be on palms, you might be on elbows, you may be able to get all the way down, and you decide which cheek you would like to rest on. That's our deer pose. For anybody feeling feisty today, if you want to do dragon and you like that a little bit better, we're going to take that right foot forward, left leg is back, and we might use those blocks to frame the foot to be inside or even down on elbows. A few of us might find it easier, not easy, but easier to be on forearms. So wherever you're choosing to be, finding your deer pose, finding your dragon, settling into the space that makes sense for you. 3 minutes on each side. Now, all that we're doing here, not all, we are doing a lot, is opening the front of that thigh. So no matter which pose you're in, we're going to feel a little bit of release through the front of the thigh. If you're in dragon, it's a little more symmetrical, a little easier for that pelvis. That twisting is also wringing out if you're in deer. So we're really wringing out from the bottom up, from the torso, that base of the torso, all the way through the top of the head. And finding a little extra space, perhaps a little range of motion in that hip structure. It's worth mentioning, we have some work going on outside of the house. This microphone is actually much more sensitive than my other microphone. So if you hear some thunking, all is okay. They're just outside doing a little bit of work on the house. So we know that, especially if you're in dragons, stubborn area takes a little bit. Maybe the longer exhale is helpful here. If you're in deer, you might find that you naturally are exhaling just a little bit longer because we're in that twist, because we're sparking with that twist, maybe a relaxation response in the body. We're releasing the front in our dragon pose, also in our deer pose, to help release the tension of the low back, and really targeting in both of these, not just your quads, but the hip flexor known as the iliopsoas, which attaches into your back 5 lumbar vertebrae. We're going to give ourselves about 3 more breaths here. Full deep breaths. When you begin to release, if you're in deer, if you're in that twist, you're going to press your palms into the floor to rise up first. For those of us in dragon, we're going to shift that weight to the back knee. Take any wiggles that work for you here. So no matter whether you're in deer or dragon, any wiggles, and then we're going to switch sides. So if you're in dragon, you're going to take that left foot forward. So left foot forward in a low lunge. If you're in deer, you're going to switch your props over to the other side. We drop the knees over this time to the left, and it'll be your right leg that walks back. And we twist over that left shoulder to rest down on that homemade bolster, or maybe it's palms and elbows. If you're in that dragon, it's the left foot that comes forward now. We're going to feel that right front of the thigh stretch. Deciding here where you'd like to have the hands if you're in dragon, where you'd like to have the cheek if you're in deer. Resting one way on the cheek in deer is going to provide a little less intense neck stretch. Resting on the other is pretty intense neck stretch. As you find yourself settling in, you might take a moment to notice those subtle differences in between sides, similarities as well. So as you're coming in, how does this side feel compared to the other side? What are those similarities or differences? Perhaps checking in with breath. If it feels challenging to be here, that longer exhale, just slightly longer than the number of beats it took us to breathe in, can be helpful, can settle the body, can release some tension. When you're ready, we're going to begin to come out. So we'll either shift weight to the back knee or press into the palms to lift the torso off of your homemade bolster to come out of the twist. Take a few minutes to wiggle around. Now we're going to kind of stack our sequence here for back release. So if you've got a blanket or your blocks available, and we would like maybe lower blocks, those 3-inch blocks, or it might be a blanket, want to have those close by, we're going to release the front side of the pelvis in a supported bridge. So we're going to come to rest on back. And here I'd actually recommend not having anything behind the head so the head can rest flat. If you don't have any of these, you're going to hang out in constructive rest pose where the feet are wide, knees drop towards each other, arms wrap around heart. If you've got blocks or blankets, we're going to start with soles of the feet on. We're going to let our blocks go now long edge against each other. We lift the hips and slide those blocks underneath. So we're going in full on front pelvis release. I promise we're going to sequence here for more ease throughout the rest of class. So as you're getting settled in, you're going to make some choices here. If you are on props, maybe you keep knees bent. Perhaps you begin to extend the legs. Now we're measuring that extension of legs or lengthening of legs with how it feels in the low back. If it gets real pinchy or uncomfortable, you might keep your knees soft. You're certainly welcome to go straight legs if that works for you. You can always add arms overhead for a nice shoulder and neck release as well. If it gets real pinchy in that low back, join me. My hands are going to be down by my side. I'm going to keep my knees bent, my soles of the feet on the floor. A little less intensity in the low back for me. So we talked about that iliopsoas connecting to all of your lumbar vertebrae. Pardon me. What tends to give a really big tug on those lumbar vertebrae, those low back vertebrae, is a really tight front of the pelvis. And that tight front of the pelvis could be a lot of things. It could be your abdominals. You have 3 layers of abdominals that are running through the front tight of that front pelvis. Pardon me. Of course, we have organs and the connective tissue associated with those housed in the pelvis. And then we have ligaments, and thank goodness we do, holding this pelvis together. Those ligaments are strong. That pelvis is really covered in lots and lots of ligaments. It needs to be. It's the thing that supports our upper body and lower body and connects both. All of that means this is a really tight area, probably no matter whether you are having a more sedentary week or more active week. It's just going to be tight. So we're spending a little extra time here today just to get maybe some layers of release. It takes a while. The body in this particular practice releases from the outside in, starting with the connective tissue of your skin, all the way down to the level of the bones. We could probably sequence a whole entire hour of doing the same 3 poses to release the front of the pelvis or the pelvis in general and the psoas in general. And we might, at that end of the hour, get a little bit more release. It's a tough area. This may be a space in this time of silence, which is about to happen, where you can check in with sensation in the body, where you're noticing sensation as long as it's not painful. If it's painful, we want to change it. That's a great message from the body in this practice that says something needs to change. Might also be a place to pick one of those qualities of breath. to spend some time noticing those qualities of breath. Maybe it's the path it's traveling in this particular pose, the sound or temperature, the rhythm. As you feel ready, arms, if they're overhead, are going to come down by your side and slowly beginning to bend your knees in. We are going to counterbalance that by drawing knees into chest. You might want to stay on your props. If they feel real pokey in your back, you may not want to. If you're in constructive rest pose, you're going to join us as well, coming in with knees into chest. Just a little counterbalance here. Now, our next space we're not going there yet, but I just want to let you know in case you want to decide to stay on your props, is into our version of our happy baby, which might mean the knees just simply go wider towards your underarms. If you're doing full happy baby, the soles of the feet will go up to the floor. We'll talk a little bit about that. So feel free to stay on your props if you have them there. If you want to come off, we're going to place the soles of the feet on the floor and just slide those props out. We're drawing knees either into chest, knees wider, depending on hip structure, or soles of the feet towards the ceiling. And we grab hold of what we can grab hold, which might still mean thighs, could be somewhere along the shins, inside or outside of the feet. Now, this might be a space where you do have something underneath the head, especially if they're reaching for your legs or your shins or your feet, is creating tension in the neck and shoulders. Now, a few of you may also want to be on the wall. So if you have a wall available, you can mimic happy baby by going legs up the wall. You send your feet a little wider and let the soles of the feet slide down the wall. So the knees are wide. They are framing your rib cage and soles of the feet on the wall, if that is a space that makes sense for you. So we sequenced here, first two poses, to release connective tissue of our hip flexors, meaning the quads in the first one. We also twisted. So hopefully if we were in that deer pose, we got a little release of the abdominal connective tissue. And then we went into our supported bridge where we're releasing deeper and really actively stretching the psoas. Here in happy baby, we are relaxing that psoas. There's not very many poses in yoga or in life that actually relax the psoas. This is one of those. So whether knees are into chest, a little bit wider towards the underarms, or in your full happy baby, we're getting that ease in that iliopsoas area. In addition, we might be getting some inner thigh stretch and some release of the hamstrings as well. So we've moved from the front of the thighs now to the back of the thighs, to those inner thighs, and ease in that iliopsoas. So the psoas is referred to, it's one muscle, and when they put the ilio in front of it, we're referring to another muscle that carpets the inside of your hip bone, or the inside of the pelvis, really. It joins up with the psoas, and they work in conjunction to be hip flexors, meaning it helps you pull your thigh in towards your chest, or helps you walk as you're striding forward. With a release of this area, the front of the thighs, the pelvis, backs of the thighs, inner thighs, you might also be releasing heat. So you may find you get super heated quickly, and then you might cool down quite a bit. That is not uncommon. These are areas of tightness and chronic tightness. So we actually build a lot of heat physically in those areas with inflammation. It's also our lower chakras. So these chakras, the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the navel chakra, which are all about our tribe, our security, and ourselves. And as we know, lots of those, I would say, issues are in our tissues, as my instructor, Nikki Myers, used to say, or we might look at it as our biography is in our biology. Those lived experiences housed in this particular area might have an opportunity to release if they're ready to let go. This may be a pose which we are holding for 5 minutes that does not suit you for 5 minutes. Any pose that we hold for longer, have that compassion for yourself if it feels complete to you, or if you're feeling like it's going to be discomfort leading to pain. It's always okay to come out of the pose. This is not an achievement-based practice. We don't get extra points for holding it for 5 minutes. We are really focused on the journey and not the destination. And sometimes the journey is done faster than 5 minutes. When you're ready, we're going to release those feet to the ground. Take your time to wiggle here. We have been in those hip creases and compressing and opening up, so stuff might really feel interesting. We're going to take a moment here, just about a minute, in our pentacle pose. And pentacle is a 5-pointed star, where we're sending our legs along and the width of the mat, or wider or less, depending on your hip structure. You'll know what feels right there. With arms reaching out either into a T or a letter V. So it depends on shoulders. They might go straight out T, or letter V. We're just careful not to send them straight overhead in parallel arms. That fifth point of the star, I get this question all the time, which is why I always preemptively say the fifth point of your star is your noggin. So you have your feet, your hands, and your head as that 5-pointed star. Just about another 30 seconds here to be expansive after compressing through that hip structure. We're going to be moving into shoulder openers. We're going to complement this opening of the low back, the front of the pelvis, with some release of the neck. And we're going to have some options because I know we're all working with different things, or maybe not working with shoulder and neck stuff. Kudos, that's good news. If you are working with shoulder and neck stuff, we're going to roll over to your right side. I'm actually going to be on my left side, but you're going to roll over to your right side. So if this is where you're headed, we're going to maybe support the head with the arm here to start off with curling up. Now, I'm going to have a bigger shoulder opener if you're not working with head, neck, and shoulder stuff. So I'll demonstrate that in just a second. If you are, let yourself be here, resting on your right side, and then opening your left shoulder up towards the ceiling. So we're getting more of an upper torso opener and heart opener while twisting. So that's safe to do if you're working with neck and shoulder stuff. If you want to get a bigger stretch, you're going to come onto your belly. And this is where we're going to be reaching your right arm straight out. And this will be hard to see, but I have my left hand here in front of my heart center. I'm going to roll over to my right side. So my head is resting. Of course, my hips and legs are resting. Arm is reaching straight out. And then I decide if I want to increase the stretch here by adding a little bit of a deeper twist. My top leg can come up, knee aiming towards the ceiling, sole of the foot behind the knee. Two choices here. Resting on your right side, opening your heart center up towards the ceiling, or extending your right arm out, deciding what you would like to do with that left leg, and hanging out here just for 3 minutes. This shoulder opener, chest release. We're always measuring this, in ways that work for our bodies. If we're in that upper torso twist, it's a very kind of different focus on the twist than when we rest on our back and then drop our knees over to the right. That's usually about rib cage and down, where we feel sensation of this. Not to say we aren't going to feel it similarly, but resting on your side and then opening up gives us a broader opening through the collarbone area, through the upper pectorals. Still twisting, so nothing bad ever happened from twisting. Nice, good wringing out of rib cage area and the organs underneath rib cage and in belly. Those of us who have the arm extended and are rolling up onto that right side, a little more intense stretch from collarbone out to arm. We're careful there. If you start to get tingles in your fingers, that is a good sign that you want to release it. Just roll back to your belly. We have a nerve plexus that goes underneath the collarbone. It's called your brachial plexus. Both of these can really compress that collarbone into the pectoral, which squeezes the nerves and makes it feel like our fingers are falling asleep. And that's a message from the body that something needs to change until we can work up to create a little bit more space between those two areas, collarbone and pectorals. Those of us who sleep on our side sleepers, we know often we wake up to an asleep hand, and it's because of that brachial plexus has been too compressed for too long. If you are resting in your twist, roll back over to your right side. Those of you who are on your right side, you're going to roll back to your belly. So take a moment in the middle of wherever you're choosing to be to rest there, either on belly or your right side. And we're going to switch sides. So those of us resting on our right side, you're now going to roll all the way over to your left side. If you're on your belly, extend the left arm. Use your right hand to press you up onto that hip structure, and then decide if you want to bend that top knee and place the foot behind the bottom leg. Now I'm going to flip over. You don't have to. You're going to stay put wherever you're at. I'm just going to flip over so I can keep my eye on the screen. So we're back now to switching sides and experiencing each side. And maybe as you're settling in, comparing, noticing similarities and differences. So one side tighter than the other. That's almost always a yes for most of us. Just like our hips are not built in symmetrical ways, one hip varies compared to the other, the way the bones come together, same with the shoulder joint. In fact, the shoulder joint is pretty, I'll never forget this quote from one of my ER doctor friends. It's just called a stupid joint. Stupid joint in that its structure is very precarious. There's not a lot holding it all in. And we want to keep all of that nice and healthy, to keep that shoulder healthy as long as we can. Maybe your shoulder joint isn't silly, but I always think of that quote as it makes me crack up, because I do feel like my shoulders are a little bit nuts. Maybe you do too. We're back to this idea again of releasing the front to release the back. We release the front of the pelvis, we release the front of the thighs to really take the tug off of the low back. We've moved up the chain. We're releasing this front side body and the tightness through what might be bicep and pectoral connective tissue to give less tug on the backside body, the back space of the heart and the back of the neck. Most of our activities and most of our daily lives now, because they involve phones and computers, create a very tight front of the neck and chest. That backside body is trying to pull us upright. Those muscles are overstretched and overworked in the backside body, creating a lot of tension. This might help alleviate some of that tug, a little bit of tug of war between a tight front of the chest and muscles that are overstretched, but trying to tighten to pull that backside body back into alignment. For those of us who have that left arm extended, you're going to roll to your belly. For those of us that are in that side twist, we're going to roll over onto our side and stay put here for about 20, 30 seconds. Just letting everything settle in. While we're resting here, our last pose before we go into relaxation is your choice. I'll have, of course, a couple of choices if you don't have anything in mind. But you might be thinking here, what's a favorite that you might have wished we've done, or perhaps we did it? and you want to do it again. If you don't have a favorite, my two suggestions would either be child's pose, where you're pressing back and resting back on heels, arms either overhead or down by your side, or crocodile today. And crocodile we don't do very often. It's not officially a yin pose, but man, do I love it. Crocodile is where feet are wider. We stack our forearms on each other. Our belly is on, but our heart is off. That's hard to see with my shirt today. And then we rest our head on our forearms. Crocodile or child's pose, or a favorite that you have. So whatever your favorite might be. For this last pose, I'm going to be quiet most of the pose. It is a 5-minute pose. It might be a space for you to start to observe the rhythm of your breath and to notice if that rhythm has changed. So in this favored space, maybe witnessing the breath, witnessing the rhythm of the breath, and whether or not that breath has changed. It's okay too, if you've gotten here near the end of class and this is the first ease you found in the body for a while, and you don't want to have to think about anything, that's okay. Let the mind wander. We're going to begin to release the pose to move into our final relaxation space. That space can be any place that you would like to be that brings the most ease into the body. And we're going to spend about 5 to 7 minutes here in relaxation today. I wanted to leave a little extra time when we're moving through some of these chakras, allowing energy to settle in and to find its own way is sort of an important way to end class. I'll talk a little bit about that here in just a second. So finding your way into the space that you would like to be resting in. And knowing that we're going to be here just a bit longer than typical. Normally it's about 3 to 4 minutes. We're going to shoot for 7 here. As you know, ideally, I would love for you to be able to relax for 15 minutes. So we're settling in, maybe with those deeper inhales, longer exhales. That same idea as we began class, where those exhales are settling into the weight of the body. This space of ease at the end of class is really so our body can let the energy that has been released, opened up, or invited in begin to find its way through the body very naturally. And we often feel quite relaxed, I hope, at the end of class because we've done some of that energetic work or work on the level of the energetic body. And I use this idea of we're plugging into the outlet and we want the light bulb to come on, but not the light bulb to blow. Not too much energy with no direction. We want it directed in the way that the body chooses. That's why we'll spend just a little longer here in relaxation today. We're going to invite the body to breathe itself. There's no effort to breath. We invite the mind to quiet. And often that looks like just longer pauses between thoughts. We let go of all of the doing of our morning, of our hour's practice. We invite ourselves to just simply be, to be resting here in a sense of ease, to be resting here, maybe even in a sense of well-being, to be resting here in silence for the next few minutes. Beginning to bring awareness back to the sound of my voice, back to the space that you're resting in. Inviting that deeper inhale and that longer exhale. Maybe beginning to reawaken the body, wiggling fingers and toes, circling wrists and ankles. Might feel good to stretch or to draw knees into chest. And as you feel ready, beginning to make your way into a seated position that feels comfortable to you. And pausing here as you find that comfortable seat, just to notice what's present for you at the end of class. What might be present in that physical body, maybe what's present in thinking mind and emotional bodies. If this gesture feels okay for you, we're going to place our palms right in front of our heart center. May all be well. May all have peace. And may we all be filled with compassion and loving kindness. The light in me is honored and grateful for the light in each of you. I bow to you. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to come over and turn off our recording.